Well, how exciting is that? You're not stuck with the brain you have. Not to believe every stupid thing they think. Because I'm not a fan of positive thinking. I'm a fan of accurate thinking. People get burned out when they're unbalanced. I'm Dr. Daniel Amen, and this is Win the Day with James Whittaker.
You're listening to Win the Day with James Whittaker.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
Broadcasting from Los Angeles, California. Here's your host, James Whittaker.
Let's go.
Hey winners, welcome back to Win the Day. If this is your first time here, we sit down with some of the world's true change makers to give you all the tips, tools, and strategies to win the day every day. The quote for this episode comes from Eric Hoffer and says, "In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists." Our guest today is a legendary brain health expert, social media phenomenon, and 12-time New York Times bestselling author, Dr. Daniel Amen. Dr. Amen's mission is to end mental illness by creating a revolution in brain health. He's a physician, adult and child psychiatrist, and founder of Amen Clinics with 11 locations across the US, including the one we're sitting in right now. Amen Clinics has the world's largest database of brain scans for psychiatry, totaling more than 200,000 scans on patients from more than 150 countries. Dr. Amen has produced 16 national TV shows about the brain, and his online videos on brain and mental health have been viewed more than 300 million times. He's also the founder of BrainMD, the science-based nutraceutical company, Amen University, which has trained thousands of medical and mental health professionals, and the Change Your Brain Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to brain health research, education, and patient support. His new book, Change Your Brain Every Day, was released in March 2023. In this episode, we're going to talk with Dr. Amen about the problem with the traditional model of mental health diagnosis and treatment, the most effective ways to improve brain health, what you can do to overcome addiction, anxiety, cognitive decline, and genetic risks, and brain health secrets to help you achieve happiness, success, and purpose. Before we begin, the right bit of inspiration can completely change the trajectory of someone's life. So if there's a friend or loved one out there who needs to hear this episode or could use some help to win the day, share it with them right now. All right, let's win the day with the man, the legend, Dr. Daniel Amen. Well, Dr. Amen, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on the Win the Day show and having me here in your clinic today.
Well, thank you for helping me spread the message of brain health. And people don't think about it, but I'm grateful.
And congrats on the new book too. I've been reading this. I can't wait for people to go and grab a copy of this new book. To kick things off, what's the problem with the traditional model of mental health diagnosis and treatment?
It's a shit show. Our outcomes in psychiatry are no better than they were in the 1950s. And we should be ashamed of that. In fact, we still make diagnoses, and I'm not kidding when I say this, as they did in 1840 when Abraham Lincoln was depressed. So Lincoln had serious problems with depression. He was actually suicidal twice in his life. And in the winter of 1840, so that's 183 years ago, his friends took his knives from him because they were worried about him and brought him to the local doctor, whose name was Anson Henry. And how did Dr. Henry diagnose Lincoln with melancholia, or what we now call major depression? He talked to him, he looked at him, looked for symptom clusters, and then diagnosed and treated him. That is exactly what's happening in most psychiatric offices in 2023, is psychiatrists make diagnoses based on symptom clusters with no biological data, and then they prescribe powerful medicines that change the brain to need them in order for you to feel normal. It's a complete shit show. And about 32 years ago, I started looking at the brain, and it changed everything I did as a psychiatrist. Changed how I diagnosed people, changed how I treated people. It's like, I hate the term mental illness because it shames people. It stigmatizes people, and it's wrong. These are brain health issues that steal people's minds.
Because
Get
context
your
is
brain right.
everything, isn't it? Like if someone had the right context, which you're actually doing here, you're lifting up the hood and you're looking at someone's brain to find out how has that been damaged. And if you could see that someone has been damaged or doesn't have optimal brain health, it's going to give you context in terms of how you respond and actually interact with that person on a daily level, rather than being so quick to judge or condemn that person.
Well, I just finished a session with one of my Scan My Brain patients. So I do a series on Instagram called Scan My Brain, where we take influential people, scan them, and then we put it out there. You know, they're willing, obviously. And Troy Glaus was the 2002 World Series MVP. He's 6'5", and he was drinking way too much. And he was depressed and had really dark thoughts. And I guess this is 15 months ago now. And I scanned him, damaged. He had 4 concussions. He's drinking too much. His emotional brain was working way too hard. He's a mess. But he does what I ask him to do to get his brain healthy. He stops drinking. He eats better. He exercises more. He stops believing every stupid thing he thinks. He takes supplements. 2 months later, his brain's better. Well, how exciting is that? You're not stuck with the brain you have. I just did his 3rd scan today, and it's better still. And I know if we keep going on this path, his brain's going to just be normal. And he's not going to end up with dementia. His family's better. And it doesn't start with you have a mental illness. It starts with your brain's hurt. Let's get your brain better, and then your life can be better.
You mentioned thoughts there. A lot of people associate their identity to the thoughts they're having. What can people do to separate the thoughts that they have with their current reality and the actions they take as a result of what they're thinking?
You know, thoughts come from all sorts of places. They come from our ancestors. Some of them are actually written into our genetic code. We know, for example, if 3 generations ago there was a traumatic event, you are at a higher risk for anxiety disorders and depression. Thoughts come from the voices of your mother and father, from your siblings, from your friends, from your foes, from the music you listen to or the news you watch. And they lie all the time. Just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true, whether or not you should believe it. And I call them ants, automatic negative thoughts. And what you do is you don't attach to them, is you just get curious about them. It's like, oh, that's not a helpful thought. Like with my wife, I have the same goal every day: kind, caring, loving, supportive, passionate relationship. I love this woman. But I get the rudest thoughts that pop up in my head. And I'm like, no, don't say that.
No husband would know what you're talking about there.
That will not help. Do not let that get out of your mouth.
Interesting. You mentioned anxiety there. We know that people are getting unhappier and unhappier, and I know a lot of your work is about letting people enjoy lives a lot more and looking after their brain so they can have a much brighter future. For anxiety specifically, what can people do to make sure that they're not so much of a victim to that feeling of overwhelming anxiety that can just creep up on them every single day?
So 4 simple things. Never leave a situation because you're anxious, because then the anxiety will control you. Breathe. Like 2 minutes, 3 times a day. 6 minutes. This will save you like thousands of dollars in therapy if you do this. It's the 15-second breath for 2 minutes. So that's 8 breaths. 4 seconds in, hold it for 1.5 seconds. 8 seconds out. So double the exhale is the inhale. Hold it out for 1.5 seconds. That's 15 seconds. repeat times 8. It just feels like you took a Valium without any side effects. Do that 3 times a day, your level of anxiety is going to go way down. And then whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, or out of control, write down what you're thinking. And then just ask yourself if it's true. And learning to kill the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. And there's a lot of ant work in the new book. It's miraculous. Like, I was 28 years old, and in my psychiatric residency at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. It's this huge military hospital, and I loved it. And the professor was teaching us about cognitive behavior therapy. And he said, you have to teach your patients not to believe every stupid thing they think. And I'm like, well, I believe every stupid thing I think, which caused a lot of suffering because I'm used to be masterful at predicting, well, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? And then I would make it worse still. And when you write the thoughts down and correct them, because I'm not a fan of positive thinking. I'm a fan of accurate thinking with a positive spin. And it's just so helpful when you don't have to believe the nonsense your mind generates. And then there's another day in the book. The book is 366 short essays on the most important things I've ever said. And it's like, if you spent 10 minutes with me every day for a year, what would I teach you? And one of the days is give your mind a name. It's based on a concept called gaining psychological distance from the noise in your head. Stephen Hayes created it. And I just love it so much. I interviewed him for my podcast. And I'm like, well, what name would I give my mind? And it's so clear to me. It came to me instantly. I named my mind after the pet raccoon I had when I was 16. So when I was 16, I had a pet raccoon. And I loved her. She is beautiful. And she was smart. And they make 200 different sounds. But she was a troublemaker, just like my mind. She TP'd my mother's bathroom. That was such a bad day for me. She ate all the fish out of my sister's aquarium one day. It was a bad day.
Is it important to give it a positive name?
Doesn't matter.
Just any name that separates your identity from the thoughts.
Right. So what name would you give your mind?
So I actually had one. So I read a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And a name just randomly popped into me. This is a long time ago. Austin was the name that I gave it. I have no, relationship with anyone called Austin, but I used to have a very hard time going to sleep because my brain is just like a beehive. It's just going nonstop. And then I reached a point when I was able to create that character where I could say to myself with my eyes closed, good night, Austin. I'm going to bed now. And I would actually watch him walk away while my eyes were closed. And that led to an amazingly peaceful sleep. And I still do that to this day. Exactly what you just shared there.
Love that.
Yeah. I never had a raccoon though.
Well, and now when my mind's giving me trouble, initially I would put Hermie, that was the name of my raccoon. I'm like, you're going in the cage, just to separate. Now I have more love for that part of me, and I put her on her back and I tickle her. And I play with her just like I played with my raccoon. And my mind doesn't bother me because I control it rather than it controls me. But that takes practice. Mental health, brain health, it's a daily practice. Just like spiritual health, just like physical health, it's a daily practice. And no one teaches you that. We have a new kindergarten through grade 1 course. It's called Brain Thrive by 5. And it's 30 short videos where we teach children to love and care for their brains. And then we have a high school course. Because I think here in the United States, you have to take English 12 times to get out of high school. Well, why aren't you taking brain and mental health 12 times? It is way more important. Andrew Jackson, one of our presidents, said it's only the dull man that can spell things one way. Right? He had lots of creative spelling.
The school curriculum doesn't really support long-term prosperity, does it?
No, one of my favorite songwriters, Paul Simon, has a song called Kodachrome that starts off with, "When I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think at all." And if I just think about my, 25 years of education, so much of it wasn't helpful. It's like, don't pour things in my brain. Teach me to think.
Is it important to unlearn with all the people that you've seen? Is it just as important to unlearn what they believe versus adopting these new habits?
Absolutely. And I tell my patients, I want you to write down 100 of your worst thoughts. And then I give them a process on how to correct them, how to direct them in ways that help. Now, if you have a negative thought and it's actually true, I'm walking in downtown Detroit and it's dangerous. When you go, is that true? The answer is yes. Go home.
You have an intuition, don't you, about real fear and real danger can be a very, very good thing.
Well, and it's one of the points I talk about in the book is that one of the lies of happiness is don't worry, be happy. I always wanted to be like my older brother, he's a don't worry, be happy person. He leaves work at 3:00. He's on the golf course and he's 150 pounds overweight. And it just makes me crazy for him. And I've always had some angst, some anxiety. And there's a study out of Stanford where they looked at 1,540 10-year-old children in 1921. And then they followed them for the next 90 years, looking with what goes with success, health, and longevity. And the only thing that those 10-year-olds showed that predicted success, health, and longevity was conscientiousness. The don't worry, be happy kids died the earliest from accidents and preventable illnesses. So I think of anxiety on a scale of 0 to 100. And I want to stay around 25, 30. I want to have enough that helps me do the right things. I'm going to be 69 this year, and I've seen thousands, tens of thousands of older brains. And it's bad news, right? As your skin falls off your face as you age. That same process happens in the brain, but it doesn't have to.
What about the idea? I feel like your unique experiences in psychiatry, as well as everything that you do with brain health and the science and research behind that. You mentioned your brother there. How do you obviously want to help people improve their brains all around the world. You're literally very vocal about your mission to create this revolution for brain health, which is so awesome. But you can't want it more than the individual who needs to change. So how do you not necessarily force someone to change, but if someone comes in and you're like, you deep down, or not deep down, you know immediately that this person needs help, they need to change, or they're going to go to an early grave, or they're going to put an unbelievable burden in many ways on their family members who are still around. How do you initiate change for people who don't want it in the present?
You nudge, you inform, you do what you can to motivate, and ultimately it's on them. And I have a very personal example of this. And 1979, I told my dad I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and he asked me why I didn't want to be a real doctor, why I wanted to be a nut doctor and hang out with nuts all day long. And I was not close with my dad. My dad worked all the time. The only time I saw him was when he took me to work, and he was not a positive person for me. And I'm the second son in a Lebanese family, and which meant you're relevant. Or, because I'm seeing all this stuff with Prince Harry, And, the title of his book, Spare, it makes me feel so bad for him because I used to have that mindset of being second. Now, when I corrected my thoughts, I want to be the second son. I don't want to be the person that's expected to become the king, or in my world, to expected to run the grocery business, which was my brother, right? I have freedom to do anything I want. Anyways, my dad and I did not have a close relationship. And I learned, no, I do what I want to do. So I became a psychiatrist. Then I started looking at the brain, and I'm like, it's not mental health, it's brain health. You got to get your brain healthy, which means you got to get your body healthy because your body supports your brain. And so in the early 90s, I'm like, Dad, you got to get healthy. Because, all the time I've loved him. Dad, you got to get healthy. And he's like, oh, great. The nut doctor is now a health nut. And literally 25 years, he'd make fun of me, he'd belittle me, and it's irritating. But because I was not bonded with him, I would let it sort of run off my back. But, deep down, it's still hurtful. When he's 85, and what he would say to people, and he was a powerful guy. He's chairman of the board of a $4 billion company. He's like, I don't get heart attacks, I give them. And then he'll tell a story about it. He'd shoot somebody out and they had a heart attack. And that's my dad. But when he was 85, I guess it's about 10 years ago, they had mold in their house. And he developed a chronic cough. And then a heart arrhythmia and heart failure. And it's the first time I saw my dad depressed. And one day I went over his house and I could just tell he was so sad. He's like, I'm sick of being sick. What do you want me to do? And the only reason he asked me that question is I'm an authentic person. I live the message of brain health. And he saw that for 25 years.
So leading by example was the biggest.
And he did everything I asked him to do. And in 6 months, he lost 40 pounds. He and I work out every Sunday. He's texting me, can I eat this? Can I eat that? And I'm one of 7. And all he's doing is talking about me to my siblings. Like, well, your brother wouldn't like that. You should talk to your brother about that. And they're like texting me, can you tell him to lighten up? And it made all of it worthwhile because when you live by example, when people need you, when they want you, and that's the only time they'll change, when they need you and when they want you, he changed. And it was so special.
You mentioned before about the difference between positive thinking and accurate thinking. What is all your work, scanning people from more than 150 countries? Have you discovered anything specifically about the law of attraction and manifestation, the realities around how thoughts can become things?
Well, the one psychiatric condition that teaches us so much about manifestation is something called pseudocyesis, or false pregnancy. If a woman unconsciously believes she is pregnant, even though she's not, her body takes on the shape of a pregnant woman. Her periods stop. Her lower belly gets bigger. Her breasts get larger. She stops having periods, and she may even lactate or produce milk from her breasts. And I've seen it 9 times in my career, and it always blows people away. But your mind is so powerful, and what you feed it will determine what it focuses on. And so I'm feeling pretty good about myself because public knowledge, I've been Miley Cyrus's doctor for 11 years, and she has the #1 song in the world right now. Pretty proud of her. And it's all about self-love. And I have an Olympic pole vaulter, Alysha Newman. It's public knowledge that I'm her doctor. And she just won the indoor World Pole Vaulting Championship 2023. And I'm so proud of her. And we focus a lot on mental rehearsal. Like, you don't see yourself failing. You see yourself succeeding. And then we put all these obstacles in your way, and your brain figures out how to succeed. Any negativity disrupts the function of the cerebellum, the coordination center of the brain. So if she sees herself failing, she'll absolutely fail. You need to be rehearsing what you want rather than allowing your negatively set mind to go and hurt you.
Can we dive a little bit more into what that looks like? What would a person be doing? Are their eyes closed, open, breathing? Is this at home, virtual? Like, how can someone do this, say, in the comfort of their own home, or do they need someone else to guide them through that?
Well, I'm a huge fan of mental rehearsal. Talk about it in the book. A fan of what do you want? How are you going to get what you want? And then repeating, what do you want? And visualizing it only in the positive, because the brain reacts immediately to negativity. It reacts in a bad way to negativity. So visualize what you want. It starts, in general terms, with an exercise early in the book called The One-Page Miracle. I do it with all of my patients. What do you want? Relationships, work, money, physical, emotional, spiritual health. What do I want? And notice alcohol's not going to fit anywhere on that. It's not going to fit. What do I want? And then is my behavior getting me what I want? And so every day, you know your one-page miracle. And until you've memorized it, you read it every day. And then you ask yourself this little simple question. Does it fit? Does my behavior, do my thoughts fit the goals I have for my life?
Have you had to take a step back before that with some people who say, I just don't know what I want?
When you ask people what they want, and I've been doing this for 40 years, a lot of people immediately will go to money, or they'll go to work, or they'll go to marriage, or they'll go to a baby. And those things are important. But people get burned out when they're unbalanced. And that's why relationships, and I purposely put that first. Work, because that's really important. Money, it's totally important for security. Physical, emotional, spiritual health. When I define it like that, people know what they want.
Gives them a framework to be able to
Right.
work
I mean,
through.
they may not know, do they want to be a surgeon? Or do they want to be a pilot? Or do they want to retire? But it's like, no, let's make you a whole person. And then let's talk about what you want in each area of your life. And at my age, I'm like, I want energy. I want memory. I want clarity. I want longevity. I want connection. And then you ask yourself, well, does it fit? I'm drinking green tea. That fits. That'll give me energy. It'll give me clarity. It'll give me longevity with green tea catechins. It's like, oh, I want a beer. Well, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit any of it.
As a foundation of all that, I feel like momentum is very, very important. You're heading in the direction of something. Whether or not you get there, that's not important. It's having the momentum that enables you to make the binary decision of, is this good for me or not? So then you can say, yes, I'm going to do something that's good for me, or say no to something. It's like the ultimate filter in terms of when you have an idea of what that life looks like for you, and you start having that momentum, and your eyes are open to what you have laid out and mapped out there, whether it is a romantic relationship or business growth or a health goal. That momentum enables you to hone in on that a little bit more.
Especially if you focus on the day rather than I have to have this or that outcome. And I was just thinking of Alysha Newman. When I first met her, she had a bad concussion. And she was telling herself, if I don't win an Olympic gold medal, I'm nothing. And I'm like, oh, no, we need to get rid of that thought. We need that is misery. I've seen some of the world's most decorated athletes who are miserable human beings, which what we need is that's a great goal. But what are you going to do today? And you have to stay present in the day to get that goal. And our goal is not the gold medal. Our goal is to be there so you have the opportunity because there are too many variables.
Yeah. So that would also then be the context. So even after the Olympic Games had passed, it'd be the same conversation, wouldn't it? What are we doing today?
What's the goal?
Yeah.
What's the goal?
I love
What am I doing today? And does each action fit? Which is why love doesn't fit. And for some of my addicts, we add then what? You know, if I do this, then what happens? If I say this, then what happens? I had a sex addict that I treated for a long time, and I just love him so much because that became our theme. What do you want? And what happens when you do that behavior? And you want to see both the positives that happen when you engage in the right behavior, but you want to see what hell looks like and avoid it. If you're smart, right? If you don't want your daughter growing up in a broken home, you know, texting that cute girl, I want you to see your daughter sad and freaked out because you disappointed her. So I have this fork in the road exercise I do with my patients. I want you to see if you make these bad decisions, what's going to happen? And I want you to visualize hell and feel it.
Yeah.
And then I want you to come back to the fork and go down the other side and see if you make consistently good decisions, what's your brain going to look like? What's your relationship's going to look like? And what gets you what you want rather than you should do this, right? If I tell people what they should do, they don't do that. But if I get them into what do you want, it's more effective.
We'll be back with the show shortly. I just want to let you in on a little secret. As you know, the win the day mentality is my life's work, and I've studied it for the last 15 years. During that time, I've helped thousands of people from all over the world to win in their career, in their relationships, and in their life. Well, for the last few months, I've been working behind the scenes on a special project with Success Magazine. For the first time ever, I'll be bringing you the exact blueprint that I've used to help the leaders of tomorrow to take their performance to the next level today. It's a self-study course with videos, activities, and a detailed workbook so I can personally walk you through everything. It's also highly practical, results-driven, and will transform your life like nothing else, guaranteed. So if you're ready to win and win big, add your name to the wait list. Just go to jameswitt.com/win. That's jameswitt.com/win. You'll also find a link to that in the show notes, and you'll be notified as soon as it's available. All right, let's get back to the show. I know you're really specific on treating someone as an individual rather than one, big brush to paint everyone. This is the Win the Day show. What are some things in particular that you feel like everyone can do so they can get up and win the day every day?
Start the day with today is going to be a great day. It's just a great habit. That way you're directing your mind to what you like, what you want. I do that every day. When you go through your day, ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? I mean, it starts with love, right? All of this is about love. I do the right thing not because I should. I do the right thing because I love myself.
So self-love, the love you're talking about there is self-love.
Self-love.
You must love yourself first before you can...
And it's also doing the right things, love of your family. It's love of your spouse, love of your children, love of your coworkers. When you do the wrong thing, it's stressful. Not only for you, but for a lot of, for everybody who loves you. And so, is this good for my brain or bad for it? We'll talk about love more, especially around food. And then when I go to bed every night, and this is so powerful, I say a prayer, and then I go, what went well? today. And I start at the beginning of the day, like when I got up. And I go hour by hour looking for what went well that day. And I have a lot of really cool things happen in my life. And I often don't focus on them because I'm busy. And this time at night is a treasure hunt. And I love it so much. And I've been doing it for a decade. And if people do it for just 3 weeks, it increases their level of happiness. But my dad died 3 years ago. He got COVID and then got Epstein-Barr. And the day he died was the worst day of my life. And when I went to bed that night, just because it's my habit, I went, what went well today? And initially, Hermie, the voice in my head goes, seriously? We are going to do that today? But because I do it, my brain just did it. And it went to a conversation between my mother and the police officer, Officer Darling. I'd been doing a program for the Newport Beach Police Department. And it's right in the beginning of COVID. And nobody can come over. And I have a family of 7 children and 30 grandchildren and 20 great-grandchildren. And within 2 hours, everybody's at the house. But the officer was cool. And I just remember this funny interaction between my mom and the police officer. And then I remembered the hundreds of texts I got from my friends that day when they heard about my dad. And I remember sitting with my dad and holding his hand before the mortuary took him away. And I just remembered how soft his hand was. And then I went to sleep. And if you have the practices, you can manage even awful days.
There's always something to be grateful for if you're looking hard enough. Yeah. You mentioned nutrition there. What is the role that nutrition plays in brain health?
So your brain is 2% of your body's weight, about 3 pounds, but it uses 20 to 30% of the calories you consume. So when they do whole body scans, the brain's like this little heater and everything else is ghost-like. So you are what you eat. You think based on what you eat. And the real weapons of mass destruction, I often say ISIS has nothing on our food industry. The real weapons of mass destruction are highly processed, pesticide sprayed, high glycemic, low fiber, food-like substances stored in plastic containers. It's the fattening and the killing of American society that we've now exported around the world. 72% of Americans are overweight. 42% are obese. 20% of children are overweight or obese. It's the biggest brain drain. I've published 3 studies that show as your weight goes up, the actual physical size and function of your brain goes down, which should scare the fat off anyone. And so if you want to think right, you have to eat right.
Complemented with the over-medication from the pharmaceutical industry that's deep in Washington's pockets, seems like a bit of a recipe for disaster for the progress of a civilization.
337 million prescriptions last year for antidepressants. 27% of all doctor visits, no matter the specialty. Someone's getting prescribed a benzodiazepine like Xanax or Valium. It's insanity.
In Australia, you can't even, these pharmaceutical companies, they're not legally allowed to advertise to consumers on television. It seems, I come over here and, if someone throws on I don't really watch much TV, but if someone throws on the TV in the background and they run through the list of symptoms and these pharmaceuticals that are being targeted at the consumer, it just seems crazy to me.
It is crazy. And we're not better. We have 4 times the level of disability for mental health problems than we did in the 1950s. So obviously all of these medication solutions are not good. Now, I'm not opposed to medicine, and I think I have a pretty rational view is, like you need medicines for cancer and you need medicines for heart disease. Yes, sometimes the brain needs medicine, but it's never the first and the only thing that you think about.
Yeah, you got to scan them and take care of a lot of lifestyle and dietary and social issues first before you start considering things like medication.
First, do no harm.
Yeah. You mentioned addiction earlier. What have you discovered from all of your research to help people be able to overcome addiction for the long term?
So in the new book, there's a new 12-step program. I reimagined, because a lot of people have heard of AA or other 12-step programs, and they were written in the 1930s when nobody was really thinking about the brain. And so I rewrote them based on neuroscience. And what I learned is all addicts are different. And it's one of the big lessons from imaging. Depression's not one thing. ADD is not one thing. Addictions are not one thing. Overeaters, not one thing. So I talk about the 6 different types of addicts. They're impulsive addicts. They have sleepy frontal lobes. They're compulsive addicts. Their frontal lobes work too hard. They're compulsive addicts. Parts are low, parts are high. They're anxious addicts, sad addicts, head trauma addicts. You got to know your type so that you can get the right help. And so we need to stop thinking of one treatment for everybody who's depressed, one 12-step program for everybody who's an addict. It's just stupid, right? It's like giving everybody the same treatment for belly pain. It's like, well, you can't do that. You have to figure out why they have belly pain, or the same treatment for chest pain. It's like, well, that's stupid. You have to know, why do you have chest pain? Same thing's true with addiction or depression.
You've done a lot to advance the literature in so many ways, which is amazing. What I want to know, what do you believe to be true that has not yet been proved through the science?
Well, you have to look. If you don't look, you don't know. And I'm still a controversial figure. It's still like powerful psychiatrists. Oh, you can't tell anything from imaging. I'm like, are you stupid? Of course you can tell things from imaging. But
more than not imaging.
But more than not imaging, yeah. My favorite story, in 2005, 2020, so big famous television show, they lied to me. They were going to do a gotcha interview on me and shame me. And so they told me that they were going to come to the clinic and do an interview on my work with childhood bipolar disorder. And I'm sort of excited because I love sharing my work. And the reporter starts the interview with, there's a psychiatrist from Columbia by the name of Brad Peterson who does imaging, and he thinks you should be arrested for your work. And that's how the interview started. And I am so grateful. I was on the speech team in college, and I did debate and extemporaneous speaking. And my speech coach said, when you don't know what to say, take a breath and smile. So I took a breath, I smiled, and then it came to me. I said, that's so interesting. Last week, someone told me I should win a Nobel Prize for my work. This week, you're telling me I should be arrested. It sort of keeps me balanced. And then we did the interview, and the correspondent threw off his microphone and said to the producer, this guy's legit. Mm-hmm. This isn't what you told me it was going to be at all. Mm-hmm. And then I got to meet Brad Peterson, because one of the doctors that works for me in New York was his mentor.
So he was a real doctor
at NYU.
Yeah.
And so I met Dr. Peterson. I'm like, what's with throwing me in jail? And he's like, oh, I didn't really understand your work. Well, now in 2023, Brad Peterson and I have a paper coming out together on childhood bipolar disorder.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't it funny how the world works and things can turn around?
Yeah, dealing with haters, that's been challenging for me because it can unbalance me.
Yeah. Do you stop to take a moment? Is there any validity to the hate? I suppose your medical stuff, you have a much higher degree of accuracy, say, than the hate that I might receive on a post that I'm putting out where I'm interviewing someone else.
Oh, I don't think the hate's accurate at all. I think the hate is mostly bullshit.
Yeah. But is there ever a time when you when you see someone?
Of course, you always go. So why do I get it and they don't get it? And I think it's just because the paradigm is so wrong. And there's a great book called The Structure of Scientific Revolution by Thomas Kuhn. And he talks about how there are 5 stages to the revolution. So there's normal, things is going along normally, and then somebody notices a problem. Like I would put someone on Prozac, and they met all the criteria for depression, and now they want to kill themselves. That's a problem. If you're a psychiatrist because you love getting people well, and you're hurting people, now you're terrified. So I noticed there was a problem. And then the status quo will also notice there is a problem, but there's too much money involved in the status quo, so they'll only make small incremental fixes. And for psychiatrists, we have a diagnostic Bible called the DSM. There's 6 versions, but it really isn't any different than it was in 1980. And then someone comes up with a new mousetrap. You should look at the brain. And rather than just give medicine, you should get their brain healthy. So it's a new paradigm. And the next stage is you're rejected. And Kuhn says it's the most common, predictable stage of a revolution, and it can last for decades. And then it's accepted. And so I think we're between 4 and 5 because we've had about 10,000 medical and mental health professionals refer to our 11 clinics. So we're making progress, but there's still the haters.
To avoid criticism, what do they say? Say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. I love your positive energy in continuing the mission. It's very inspiring.
You just, once you see, you can't unsee.
Yeah.
Like once you see how powerful the images are to decrease shame. It's not mental. It's medical, not mental.
For sure.
To increase compassion from the families, to motivate people to do the right thing.
How do we improve brain health for kids specifically?
Play games with them. When my daughter, who's 19, was 2, her name is Chloe. We played this game called Chloe's Game. So I would go, is this good for your brain or bad for you? If I would say frozen blueberries, because I like frozen blueberries, she would go, are they organic? Because non-organic blueberries hold more pesticides than almost any other fruit. I'm like, of course they're organic. She goes, 2 thumbs up, God's candy. If I said avocados, she'd go, 2 thumbs up, God's butter. Her mother makes something called avocado gelato. If I said, hitting a soccer ball with your head, she's like, she would roll her eyes at me. Are you stupid? The brain is soft, the skull is hard, the skull has sharp bony ridges. If I said, talking back to your redheaded mother, no, very bad. And so you plant it. Where is your brain? What does your brain do? How important is your brain? What helps it? What hurts it? Getting them involved to see, oh, it controls everything. So we have a high school course. And right after we do this session on things to avoid, it's always a boy. It's never a girl. Always a boy raises his hand and go, how can you have any fun? And so we play a game with them called Who Has More Fun? The kid with the good brain or the kid with the bad brain? Who gets the girl and gets to keep her because he doesn't act like an ass? The kid with the good brain or the kid with the bad brain? Who gets into the college they want to get into? The kid with the good brain or the kid with the bad brain? And that's the big lesson, is you are not depriving yourself by engaging in a serious brain healthy life. You're not depriving yourself of anything.
You know, I think my favorite quote from you was that love food that loves you back. I think that's just such a simple thing for people to be able to remember. What about alcohol? For even people who, it was, didn't they say for a while there, it was like you have one glass of wine a day. It's supposed to actually be beneficial for you for longevity or one of the markers. How damaging is alcohol?
2 glasses.
Two glasses
was the message from the wine industry. And follow the money. Always follow the money. Alcohol is terrible for your brain. Why would you drink a disinfectant? Why would you drink something that purposefully makes you uncoordinated? Why would you drink something that purposefully makes you hungrier and increases the number of bad decisions that you make? Why would you drink something that tastes terrible, that's ultimately yeast poop? And during the pandemic, it was fascinating. Jim Beam, one of the whiskey companies, turns its plants into a hand sanitizer company. Because what's alcohol? My wife is a nurse. Why does she put alcohol on your skin before she gives you a shot? Because it kills all the bugs. Well, how many bugs do you have in your gut? You have 100 trillion. So it's called the microbiome. And the microbiome is your defense force. So I remember when I told Chloe about all the bugs in her gut, she's like, ew, I have bugs in my gut. And I'm like, you have to think of them like these are your soldiers. They protect you. They digest your food. They detoxify your body. They make neurotransmitters. They help keep your hormones healthy. They decrease inflammation. They help your body fight off infections. They're really important. They're your soldiers. You're going to really get them drunk or murder them? I mean, we know kids who had a lot of ear infections and took a lot of antibiotics, they tend to be more anxious because they damage or disrupt their microbiome. Alcohol does the same thing. It disrupts your microbiome. Plus, it decreases the white matter in your brain. So what's that? So gray matter, nerve cell bodies, where a lot of processing happens. White matter are nerve cell tracks, nerve cell highways. It helps your brain communicate with itself. And alcohol has been shown, any alcohol has been shown to damage it. Now, I've been talking about this ever since I started scanning people, because when I first started scanning people, I was the director of a substance abuse treatment program, and their brains were just horrible. And I'm like, drinking is not a health food. And our first clinic was 11 miles from downtown Napa, in the Napa Valley in Northern California. So wine was a big deal.
Yeah, you wouldn't be very popular.
And I'm like, this is not a health food. Like, stop lying. And so I've been talking about it for 30 years. Last year, the American Cancer Society came out against any alcohol. The American Cancer Society. Why? Any alcohol increases your risk of 7 different types of cancer. It's not for you. If you want the things I want energy, I want memory, I want longevity, I want connection, I want purpose. Why would you purposely damage your brain? And marijuana is in that same category. I published the world's largest imaging study on 62,454 scans on how the brain ages. So our youngest scan in our study group was 9 months old. Our oldest scan was 105, 62,000 scans. So when you're a little kid, you have a busy brain, sort of drops until you're about 25 because of some processes in the brain, stays stable till about 60, and then begins to drop again. So, how the brain ages. And then, because of all the charts we have, we looked at what accelerates aging. And the worst was having schizophrenia. So schizophrenia is a very serious brain health, mental health problem. Your brain looked 10 years older. The next worst was marijuana. And it surprised me, quite frankly. I mean, I knew marijuana makes your brain look toxic, but that was the second worst thing. The third worst thing was alcohol, then nicotine, then being overweight.
Wow, interesting. Final question before the rocket round. On your best day, what's an affirmation that you would write on a flashcard to show yourself on your worst day?
Today is going to be a great day.
I love it.
And one of my favorite, I don't know if this is an affirmation, but I say it all the time to myself and my patients. Said it a lot during the pandemic. Argue with reality. Welcome to hell.
I love it. Well, let's now move into the Win the Day rocket round. 10 questions for some quick answers. Number one, what quote inspires you the most?
The prophet has been a kook for 25 years.
Number two, this is, I was nervous to ask you this one. Morning coffee or evening wine?
Morning decaf coffee.
Morning decaf coffee, good answer. Number three, what's one bit of advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
Be excited. So many good things are going to happen.
Number four, what book do you gift the most apart from your own? Or what book had the biggest impact on your life?
Loving What Is by Byron Katie.
Number five, was there a vulnerability you once hid within that became your superpower?
Yeah, I'm not perfect. Share it.
Number six, what's one thing you've learned about failure?
There's no failure. It's you win or you learn. You win or you learn. You win or you learn.
Number seven, if you could sit on a park bench and have a conversation with someone alive or dead, who would it be?
Oh, Jesus. Absolutely. I'm going to ask him why I didn't put bumper guards on a certain area of the brain.
Could have saved a lot of heartache. Number eight, what tool or resource best helps you run your life or your amazing business of 11 clinics?
Scaling Up. I love that book by Vern Harnish. It's a management tool book that it just really helps you stay focused.
Number nine, share one thing on your bucket list.
I'm doing my bucket list. I don't have anything else I want to do.
Living it.
Yeah.
So good. And final question, number 10, what's one thing you do to win the day?
Stay with the habits that work.
I love it. Well, there are a bunch of ways to connect with Dr. Daniel Amen, and we'll link to all of these in the show notes. You can follow him on Instagram at doc_Amen. Grab a copy of his amazing new book, Change Your Brain Every Day, on Amazon, or drop into one of the 11 Amen clinics and go and get a brain health scan so you can improve your performance every single day. Again, all of that and more will be linked in the show notes. Dr. Amen, thanks so much for coming on the show.
What a joy. Thank you for helping me spread this message.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Win the Day podcast. We want to hear your thoughts on what we covered today, so drop a comment on the YouTube version of this episode with your favorite takeaway, any questions you have, or what actions you'll be taking as a result of what was shared in this episode. And if you found value in the Win the Day podcast, leave a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You'll find a link to both of those in the show notes. It'll only take you a few seconds, and more ratings really helps other people discover the show so they can get the mindset upgrade they need, and we can bring more winners into the Win the Day movement. That's all for this episode. Get out there and win the day. Until next time, onwards and upwards, always.